6:05, good morning. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Glad you're starting off the day with us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and streaming on the free KCMO Talk Radio app. We continue to monitor the situation overseas between Israel and Iran and what our role is exactly going to be right now. You have Israel continuing to hammer Iran, where it's 2:04 in the afternoon over in Tel Aviv. And Iran is hanging tough right now. The latest here, Iran is warning it will respond if the United States gets involved with the Israeli strikes. So right now you have the president of the United States considering getting more involved with Israel's war against Iran. And the Islamic Republic is warning that it will respond firmly if and when that does happen. I don't think it's an understatement to say that Donald Trump is facing the most consequential decision of his life that will have the biggest impact on the world for decades, if not generations to come. So this is something that obviously he left the G7 meetings early to come back to D.C. to try to figure out what the next and best move is for the United States. You have Israel striking key nuclear sites in Tehran overnight. And now we sit here basically in a waiting game right now to see if Iran is serious about coming to the table. Trump tweeted out or posted on Truth Social yesterday, unconditional surrender, all caps. And there's also this idea right now that this is continuing to divide Donald Trump's base. And I think that's playing out more online than it is in the real world. I think people who are forever on the internet and are forever scrolling through X and are looking for that engagement nonstop, they're portraying this situation as like, man, he's losing his base. It's happening right in front of our eyes. Donald Trump is losing his base. Just ask some of the people who are the biggest Trump supporters, and they appear to be fed up. Whether it's Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, these are the people who they claim have completely turned on Trump. I'm not seeing that. I'm not with regular people. I mean, we put a post up on Facebook yesterday, and yeah, some people were obviously not wild about us playing any role in the Israel-Iran conflict, but nobody's like, I'm done with Trump. This is it. What are you going to go vote for Kamala Harris next time? I mean, come on, be serious here. See, what's interesting is whether it's me, whether it's you, whoever it might be, I've been critical of Trump at times. Some of you have said that that's not fair. Whatever, that's fine. The world goes round. Now, if you're critical of Trump, it means, well, the MAGA base is collapsing and falling apart. No, that's not what it means. It's not. Every issue doesn't have to be black and white, and your preferred politician does not have to agree with you on every single issue for you to suggest that you would vote for him again or vote for his party or her party again. That's not how any of this ever works. But the people that want to create this mentality of, oh, boy, you're either with us or you're against us. It's like, no, that's not the way any of this in politics ever operates. It's a zero-sum game. All you have to be is more palatable than your political opponent, John.
Trump's tenure at the McDonald's drive-thru divided the MAGA base between Burger King and Wendy's, and he's losing support there, too.
Yeah. Thank you for that. J.D. Vance had a long post up last night on X. And he said, look, and J.D. Vance is like right at the center. He is basically the flag bearer, or was the flag bearer, of the MAGA base that wanted absolutely no part of any more forever wars, Middle East involvement. Like, that was J.D. Vance. J.D. put on X yesterday, look, I'm seeing this from the inside. And I am admittedly biased towards our president and my friend. But there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media. So I wanted to address some things directly on the Iran issue. He says, first, the president has been amazingly consistent over 10 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Over the last few months, he encouraged his foreign policy team to reach a deal with the Iranians to accomplish this goal. The president has made clear that Iran cannot have uranium enrichment, and he said repeatedly that this would happen one of two ways, the easy way or the other way. He goes on to note here, I've yet to see a single good argument for why Iran needed to enrich uranium well above the threshold for civilian use. I've yet to see a single good argument for why Iran was justified in violating its non-proliferation obligations. I've yet to see a single good pushback against the IAEA's findings. That's the International Atomic Energy Agency. And they found that Iran was in violation of their non-proliferation obligations. Then he goes on to wrap up by saying here, he may decide he needs to take further action, that being President Trump, to end Iranian enrichment. That decision ultimately belongs to the president. And of course, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. But I believe the president has earned some trust on the issue. And having seen this up close and personal, I can assure you that he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish the American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus. That was J.D. Vance on X yesterday. And this is a guy who you would have called 6 months ago basically the face. Maybe you'd say Tucker Carlson, but J.D. Vance, the face of America First, in part being defined by its isolationist foreign policies. And JD is like, we've got a different situation on our hands. You know, you're allowed to change your opinion on things when new facts and new information comes along. And that's what JD Vance is doing. And frankly, that's what smart people do. Like, if you want to just break it down, smart people change their opinions on things when they get new information. That changes the facts. That changes the lay of the land. And that's what J.D. Vance is doing right now. It's very easy to be a politician on the campaign trail and just say, ABC, black and white, no doubt about it. And then you get in there, you get in the trenches, you start doing the job, and suddenly it's a lot more complex. And I'll tell you right now, based on Trump 1.0, there is no reason to not have faith in stylistically how he is going about his job on the foreign policy front and the implementation of what he wants to do in the foreign policy game that will be far better than Obama, George W. Bush, Biden. I mean, he deserves the benefit of the doubt on this issue. 913-408-7957. Let's get to you before the break. Stu is in Rosedale. Go ahead, Stu. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Bungo. You know, when you bring up the idea that Trump is losing his base over his foreign policy, I just can't help but wonder how soon it will be before the usual suspects, all the usual media talking heads in unison tell us that the walls are closing in on Trump.
You know, there are a lot of, thank you, Stu, you're right. There are a lot of pieces out there, and I saw multiple this morning. New York Magazine had a piece, TheHill.com had a piece, and they all framed it as MAGA is cracking. Now, there are a couple of loud voices, like I've noted, and like we've talked about the last couple of days, that are criticizing Trump over what he's done over the last few days and at least having Israel's back and basically threatening Iran. That's all he's done. And the media loves the idea of creating a fissure between the MAGA base. Because right now, there is no leadership on their preferred side of the political aisle. Trump's got all the juice. So if they can build up this media narrative, TheHill.com writes, battle to define America First intensifies as Israel strikes Iran. New York Magazine writes, MAGA has reached a crossroads in Iran. Come on. You buying that? Please. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene can say what she wants. She's entitled to disagree with Trump. Okay, but you're telling me push comes to shove, Marjorie Taylor Greene is really going to break off of Trump? It's not happening. I mean, look at here in Kansas and Missouri. You're not hearing a peep from the Republicans in the Senate or the House when it comes to criticizing the president over his handling of Israel and Iran right now. It's not happening. Got a couple of voices, and they're louder, oversized voices, and that's about it. 913-408-7957. It's great to be here on a Wednesday. We dodged a lot of those heavy storms last night. They ended up staying to the south of us here in the Kansas City area. Now, speaking of storms, do the Chiefs have a storm on their hands with a new lawsuit they're facing? We'll explain next on KCMO. I didn't see any local TV outlets cover this last night. I was surprised. But here's the headline. Front Office Sports reports that a former Chiefs employee sues the team for racial discrimination. Ramsey Robinson says the Chiefs paid their black employees less than their white counterparts. Okay, now, before we get into the details of this lawsuit, Ramsey Robinson was Mr. Irrelevant. And if you're not an NFL fan, what that means is he was taken as the last pick of the 2007 NFL draft. The last player taken is called Mr. Irrelevant. That was Brock Purdy a couple of years ago. He's turned out to be a pretty darn good Mr. Irrelevant, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. So Robinson played college ball at Alabama, didn't see much time in the NFL, played 4 seasons, not a lot of action. And he's been working for the Chiefs for the last few seasons. Well, he has filed, after 9 years, he filed a lawsuit, an 11-page complaint in the Western District of Missouri yesterday. The filing claims the Chiefs paid black employees, less than their white counterparts. Fired Robinson, a black man, in February for an incident caught on camera without showing him the tape, and stopped another team from interviewing him even though he was already fired. So attorneys for Robinson and spokespeople for the Chiefs and the Texans, the other team involved here, did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Now, I'm not here trying to do the bidding for the Chiefs in any way, but when I start reading through the story, the thing just stinks. The entire lawsuit just stinks to high heaven. So what are the examples that he uses here? Well, he says Robinson joined the team as a coordinator in 2016. Not on the field, but, an off-field job. And he started off making $35,000 a year. His most recent position paid him $125,000 a year.
Oh.
Yeah. So, he certainly had a nice bump over 9 years of about $100,000.
Well, I'm not keeping up on that pace myself, unfortunately.
We're going to get you there, John. It's all right. The suit says Robinson was underpaid at his position compared to other NFL teams. But the Chiefs, led by Mark Donovan, would not grant him a compensation review or raise, saying they had already given him raises. Okay. Well, he has gotten, obviously, multiple raises over the years, and the best way to figure out what you're worth is to go out there on the open market and explore that possibility. That may mean going to another team, right? So what happened on that front? Well, the lawsuit says that Robinson renewed his contract with the Chiefs, but before he was fired, the Texans wanted to interview him. But the Chiefs didn't allow it, saying it would violate his contract. The suit claims that this was improper and neither justified nor excused. Well, hold on a second here. They go on to say in the suit that the Chiefs' actions against Robinson were based on his race. If his contract didn't allow it and he had signed a deal where he agreed to some kind of a non-compete, I cannot today go to another radio station and say, hey, let's talk. Today, right. I can't do it. In a few months, I could do it based on my contract, which I know. I can't do that today, right now. So if I do something that's in violation of my contract, my employer here at Cumulus Media has every right to not be happy with me. So that's where he doesn't deny in this lawsuit that what he was trying to do was in violation of his contract. He's just screaming racism. Race. Got to be about race. Now, the other example in this lawsuit, The filing also claims the Chiefs pay African-American business employees less than their white counterparts. According to the lawsuit, a black woman resigned from her job that paid $50,000 a year after the team's refusal to increase her salary or consider a promotion, and her role was filled by a white woman for $80,000 a year. Okay, it's never as simple as that. Is it possible the $50,000 a year employee was not pulling her weight, was not worthy of a raise? Were there things happening behind the scenes where the Chiefs said, we're not sure this is the right person for the job. We think this person is worth maybe $50,000 a year, but we don't think this person is worth $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. And then when you have to fill a new role and someone comes in at $80,000 a year, it's like anything else. Where did that person come from? Did you have to entice them monetarily to take on this new position? Were there potentially new or different responsibilities that were a part of this person's position that maybe the predecessor didn't have on her plate? It's always, listen, if you live in the real world and you have a job with any kind of a company, small, medium, or large, this stuff is always so much more complex than dopey lawsuits like this lead on. Always. And that's why this thing just isn't passing the smell test for me. Anybody who takes a situation like this and immediately jumps to, well, it's all about my skin color, it's all about race, and doesn't have really any evidence to back it up, sorry, I'm not buying this one.
I understand the way things are today, but you have to take into account the Chiefs' history. They're a founding franchise of the AFL. Lamar Hunt employed many black young men back when the AFL expanded here, and so many HBCU athletes got a chance because of the AFL and in part because of the Kansas City Chiefs and the rest of the teams back in 1960.
Yeah, that's a great point. The legacy obviously precedes the team on all this stuff, and that's something that hopefully it doesn't come to that in court. But, man, this thing, I'm not buying it for a second. News in 3 minutes. We're back with you here on KCMO. KCUR keeps whining about funding. We'll get to it next. I was just laughing when I saw this yesterday, and it came right after our conversation with Missouri Congressman Mark Alford, Missouri's 4th Congressional District. He did a town hall 2 nights ago. God bless this man. He did a town hall 2 nights ago with KCUR, the National Panhandler radio affiliate here in Kansas City. And then they drop a piece about the potential defunding of NPR and PBS, and they run this headline, "A Threat to Journalism in Kansas City."
Where?
Yeah. They are a threat to journalism in Kansas City, just not the way they think they are, right? They think defunding them would be a threat to journalism in Kansas City. I would argue keeping NPR funded in this town is a threat to real journalism in Kansas City. Because they're not doing a lot of that. I promise you. It's political hit job after political hit job to fit their preferred political narrative. That's the name of the game at KCUR here in Kansas City. John, we all know that.
Yeah, it's a template, and you just fill in the blanks. So.
Yeah. Yep. So they write here, the U.S. House voted to take back $1.1 billion from public broadcasting stations like NPR and KCUR. See, even that sentence is poorly framed. The U.S. House voted to take back. Well, technically, the money doesn't even exist. We're $37 trillion in debt. We're not taking anything back. We're just not giving you something that we can't afford and that, frankly, you should not have had for a very long time. Now, the rescission package heads to the U.S. Senate. KCUR CEO and news director explain what's happened and what it means for this station, plus how we approach our journalism. Ah, yes, the high and mighty Big J journalism going on there, John.
Didn't their journalisming tell us that they don't use that much money or it's not that big a deal?
Oh, yeah. Well,
right?
They always love that.
Yeah.
They do the whole federal funding's only X percent of our operation, but we can't afford to lose our federal funding.
Yeah.
Which one is it, guys?
How about that?
Can't have your cake and eat it, too. So this was one of their headline stories yesterday. And just so you know, the Vince show, Vince Coglianese, who is on now 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day after Keatsman, he has been so on this. So this rescissions package, which is chump change, it's like $9 billion that the House voted to move forward with last week, which does in large part defund NPR and PBS and also some of USAID. It's like $9 billion. It's so unimpressive, but whatever, it's something, it's a start. John Thune in the Senate has said that he's not going to touch this thing till July. Can you just do one simple thing quickly for once in your lives in Congress? Trump's a go on this. The House did its part. Can the Senate just take 5 minutes and go vote on this stupid thing? Why do they have to make stuff so much more complicated than it needs to be? This is a layup, no-brainer. Your base and a lot of people in the middle are going to be on board with this, and you guys just can't make it easy. You can't help yourselves on so many simple things. So yesterday we had on Mark Alford after his town hall, and he told us that the defunding of NPR and PBS came up during his town hall with NPR. And here's what the Missouri Congressman, 4th Congressional District, had to say.
But that question did come up, and it was a kind of a lighthearted moment. But here's what I explained to Steve and others in the audience. And by the way, there were about 20 people there from the KCUR staff, either staff or volunteers. And I said, look, when I was a kid, it made sense to have Corporation of Public Broadcasting. We only had 3 stations. And for the underserved community to have educational information come to their living rooms to help educate young people, that's one thing. But now there are phones, there's internet. You can get educational material in a variety of ways that we could not get when we were kids. I did say this, though. It is time for Big Bird to fly out of the nest. It's time for Bert and Ernie to move out of their parents' basement. If you want Sesame Street, go back and look on your phone for the versions for 1980 where they were actually teaching the ABCs and not DEI.
There you go. That was Mark Alford. He was very proud of that line at the end, by the way. I could tell.
It's a good one.
It's a great one. It was outstanding. And he's right. You realize that Sesame Street will be just fine. Like, how much would, and I don't know the contractual status of all this, but how much would Netflix pay to own the Sesame Street brand and everything that comes along with it? You know, I've got every Sesame Street character in my house as a little action figure right now. I stepped on one in the middle of the night last night. I was like, oh, geez, oh, gosh. Stepped right on Grover. His nose poked me in the bottom of my foot. And then I'm hobbling through the hallway, like holding one leg and trying not to curse at about 2 a.m. It happens. But if you own that brand, do you realize what that means when it comes to action figures, when it comes to having the rights to commercial inventory for Sesame Street? Netflix, Apple, whoever, Amazon would pay a fortune for the Sesame Street brand. It is beloved by multiple generations. It is not like the woke nonsense kid shows that they're trying to push on people today. It's just good old classic all-American fun. Sesame Street will be fine. This notion of if you don't fund PBS, you don't want Big Bird to exist. No, Big Bird will be fine because guess what? Big Bird has a brand. Big Bird is valuable, right, when it comes to American entertainment. The problem is, yes, there will be a lot of people at NPR affiliates around the country that will be out of work. But that's because their skill set / brand is really not worth a lot in the eyes of the private sector. That's why. And that's what this ultimately always comes down to. Are you worth something in the private sector or not? And the fear for many at places like NPR is that they will realize the answer to that is no, and that they have been overvalued by an operation that is being funded in large part by your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I will say, and even if it's not on a personal level, when we talk about comparing salaries, you know, an equitable job here in the regular radio sector gets paid more over there because they're swimming in cash, I guess.
Well,
right?
Yeah, and what I would say is that the vibe I've gotten, because I've interviewed a couple of people that had worked over there, the entry-level positions pay so much more than they do anywhere else.
Right.
The top end appears to be somewhat equal, but the entry level is where it's like, wait, you guys are playing on a different playing field here because apparently you are flush with government cash. And all we do here at KCMO is say, hey, support our great advertisers, the local ones, the national ones. Everything's coming free, and then we can invest more into our product. That's the name of the game. So now they can be on an equal playing field with the rest of us. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Nope.
913-4087.
Dare you say equitable?
95.7. Dare I say it? I said it. That's right, I said it. And I think I'll survive after saying it because I used it in a manner that is appropriate based on the conversation we were just having. And that's all we're looking for here, okay? That's it. That's our text line. That is our studio line. You can stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Good question on the text line. Pete, you mean to tell me we actually have a United States Senate? No, I know. It seems like they're oftentimes just overpaid talking heads for cable news who are publicly subsidized, but apparently we still do, yes, have a United States Senate. But boy, they like to do less than ever before. And that's one of the major problems we have right now with Congress in general. They want to see, here's the thing. The party in power is happy to give all its power to the president, and then the party out of power likes to scream about dictators, and now we're in a world where both sides do it. Congress just doesn't have interest in doing any of the dirty work because they're all afraid about getting reelected. And they all want to make sure they're appeasing the right people, the correct lobbyists, and that's what causes, in part, the mess that we're currently in right now. The top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour. We call it the 6 at 6. We'll get to that next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And 1 hour from now, your next chance at Country Stampede 3-day passes. Azura Amphitheater next weekend, Luke Bryan, Cole Swindell, Miranda Lambert, and more. That is at 7:45 on KCMO. It's another day that ends in Y, which means the Kansas City Star cannot help itself but trash Republican leadership around the region. Good morning. Great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. So they wrote a big editorial yesterday, very upset with Mike Kehoe, the governor of Missouri. And the headline is, in rare move, Missouri governor leaves U.S. after calling up National Guard. So, of course, Mike Kehoe called up the National Guard. He activated the Missouri National Guard last week ahead of the No Kings Day protest that took place around Missouri. Now, I predicted it was not going to be some 2020 repeat. Look at the people in the crowd, for crying out loud. They mostly had white hair. They mostly drove Subarus. And they probably, most likely, had multiple doctor's appointments to go to this week. I mean, I'm in the phase of life now where I notice my parents, they plan their lives around when they have to go see a doctor. Like trips and visits and everything else is like, well, I got this doctor this week and this doctor that week. And everything's around the doctor, John. Mm-hmm. And I realize it's difficult to get into doctors' offices these days. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the phase of life they find themselves in.
Fortunately, we have cell phones now to stroll through and stuff, and the waiting rooms with highlight magazines from 10 years ago, different things. It's kind of a bit boring, but a little better action now.
My middle daughter's favorite book right now is The Berenstain Bears Go to the Doctor.
Sure.
And the point where they're in the waiting room is always recognizable to me because nobody has a phone in their hands. They've got to read magazines and play board games and everything else.
Yep.
So that's what the crowd was at these No Kings rallies. It was totally different than 2020, where it was a very youthful energy. There was not a lot of youthful energy coming out of the No Kings protests over the weekend. But whatever. Mike Kehoe, as the governor, has the right to activate the National Guard. He has every right to do that. And from his perspective, it's a preemptive move, right? It's also the chicken or the egg conversation. Some may argue it was only peaceful because the police were not backing down like they were in 2020, and state leaders were not screwing around. We've got our local police force on it. We've got the National Guard activated. Be careful what you wish for. That conversation is also a worthy one to have as well. But anyway, They write here in the Kansas City Star, a Kehoe state of emergency and activation of the National Guard without evidence of widespread violence in the state drew sharp condemnation from critics.
I thought of a different word than critics. Started with an I, had a T and an S at the end.
Yeah. But the decision to do so just days before leaving the country, potentially giving another office holder the power to oversee the state of emergency, was highly unusual, political scientists say. So Kehoe is in France right now on a trade mission. And in his place, Lieutenant Governor David Wassinger, a first-time office holder who ran as a conservative firebrand, writes the Star, will serve as acting governor until Kehoe returns on Friday. So the Kansas City Star is trying to find some political scientist, which I put up my air quotes, I don't even know what that is, to comment on this and support their beliefs. And they find Daniel Ponder, who's a poli-sci professor at Drury University in Springfield.
Oh, boy.
Of all the colleges, you are a Kansas City newspaper. Couldn't find someone at UMKC, at Park University, Rockhurst. I mean, all the colleges right in our backyard. You went down to Drury to find the poli-sci guy who was going to give you the quote you were looking for, John?
Wall Street, remember the phone call? Blue Horseshoe loves Endicott. Steal the code talk, right? They hit UMKC and they go, you're on your own here. Keep chopping.
Yeah, Park, no, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Rockhurst will pass. Did Mizzou even pass? I mean, geez. So Daniel Ponder tells the Star, it's probably not unprecedented, but it's certainly rare.
Such a cute soundbite.
That means nothing. That
So are tornadoes on a sunny day.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens.
That means nothing. It's not It's not even is it not unprecedented. It's probably not unprecedented, he says, but it's certainly rare. Wow, thank you, Captain Obvious. Yes, it is rare for a governor to activate his National Guard. That is rare. And for that to happen while he has a planned trip on a trade mission to France, yes, that is also rare. It is rare for Governor Kehoe to find himself on a trade mission to France. So when two rare things happen at the same time, that is super rare. So thank you, Captain Obvious, for pointing this out to us in the Kansas City Star. A total genius on our hands.
Dare we say unprecedented here, you know?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Appropriate use of the word.
That would be. So they go on this big, ridiculous piece saying Kehoe framed the move to call up the National Guard as proactive, and there were no reports of soldiers deployed to protests across the state. But the active state of emergency now raises questions, experts and critics say, about how Wassinger will handle his temporary role. Oh, my. It is exhausting to be this triggered on a daily basis by what your state government is doing or not doing. I can't imagine having this much time on my hands to worry about such frivolous nonsense and BS like this.
I don't think it takes much time, actually.
Yeah,
They're just mailing that in because further exploration reveals that Wassinger's never been in charge of the National Guard before. He has no history of experience in this, right?
Yeah.
Like as if anyone does.
Yeah, no kidding. He has not held statewide office. So, of course, right? But they just go, I mean, this piece is so absurd. And here's the interesting part. Quentin Lucas was not in the country last week.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
He was in Germany last week, right?
Yeah.
And nobody in local media has brought this up. He's going to be on the show tomorrow. I look forward to having the mayor on. He has not canceled for big Juneteenth plans or anything like that. We're going to be here. I know it's a federal holiday, but we're going to be working tomorrow. We'll be here doing our show. And my first question is going to be, why were you in Germany? And then secondarily to that is, why did you not share anything about it on social media for a guy who shares everything on social media? Someone's got to ask it.
Who was in charge of local control?
Yeah, exactly. Who was in charge of the police in Kansas City? If you're going to be that critical of David Wassinger, the lieutenant governor overseeing the National Guard in Missouri while Mike Kehoe's out of the country, well, by golly, you should be outraged by Quentin Lucas being out of the country. And I know he doesn't run KCPD. He's just one member of our Board of Police Commissioners. You would think that outrage, or at least those questions, would be similar on a very local level. But, of course, that's not what the Star chose to do. Now, speaking of Mayor Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City posted something yesterday saying that he was appreciative of the real progress we've seen in recent violent trends out of the Jackson County portion of our city. He says homicides are down 8%. Non-fatal shootings are down 46%. More arrests and prosecutions are being made on serial burglars in Jackson County and Kansas City. We will keep the pressure on. This doesn't work without collaboration and hard work by KCPD, he writes. Our Jackson County prosecutor, Melissa Johnson, and our city initiatives to ensure we address prevention and reoffense by targeting problem businesses and areas. Enhancement enforcement will continue so long as our problems persist. That is a nice way and a roundabout way, elongated way, in classic Mayor Lucas fashion, of saying we're keeping the foot on the pedal and we're going to keep cracking down on crime more so than we have in a long time. But a lot of people questioned him on this post, and they said, wait, you said homicides are down 8%. But right now, when you look at Kansas City, Missouri, and their homicide numbers, we're at 74 homicides year to date. That is January 1st through June 17th, yesterday. At this point last year, we had 68 homicides. So how is the mayor saying we're down 8%? I will explain his interpretation of that number. And while it's accurate, it doesn't tell the whole story, and it doesn't explain part of a bigger problem this city is facing. We'll get to it next on KCMO. Let's take into these numbers here. Mayor Quinton Lucas of Kansas City posting this on Facebook yesterday. He says, challenges remain, but I'm appreciative of the real progress seen in recent violent trends out of Jackson County portion of our city. So this is a data point that is exclusive to Jackson County. This doesn't include Clay and doesn't include the portion of Platte County that also engulf Kansas City, Missouri proper. He says homicides are down 8%, non-fatal shootings are down 46%. He goes on to basically say our prosecutor, Melissa Johnson, who's new on the job, is doing a great job, and we're going to keep enhanced enforcement a priority in Kansas City. That was the message from Mayor Lucas. So a lot of people are looking at this number, and they're saying, well, hold on a second here. There's a website or there's a web page on the KCPD website that shares daily homicide analysis. And it shows that Kansas City right now is sitting at 74 homicides year to date. That's January 1 through June 17th. And last year at this point, that number was 68. So we're actually up from last year. Now, we're down from the peak of 2023 when we were sitting at 87, but we're up from last year. So how's the mayor getting this number of being down 8%? Well, because he qualified this as saying this is just the Jackson County portion of Kansas City. There has been a major spike in violent crime in the Northland. So look at these numbers. If you look at Kansas City by patrol division, they break down the violent crime based on patrol division. So you've got Central Patrol, Metro Patrol, East Patrol, North Patrol, South Patrol, and Shoal Creek Patrol. When you combine North Patrol and Shoal Creek Patrol, those are the two patrols that are north of the river. You have had 15 homicides this year. Last year at this point, those two patrols, North and Shoal Creek, had a combined 4. That is a 275% increase in that number from 1 year ago at this time. And how about this? 2 years ago in 2023, North Patrol and Shoal Creek had a combined 1 homicide at this point in 2023. That number for this year, 2 years later, is 15. Yes, crime has come down south of the river. It's still where the bulk of the crime is, but on a percentage basis, it's come down. There has been an explosion north of the river. Now, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. There have been socioeconomic, demographic changes north of the river. I mean, they're also, like many places around Kansas City, trying to jam as many apartments as they can. That brings a more transient population. It's just a fact. You also don't have here's the thing. In a zero-sum game with a police department that is not fully staffed, if you're moving people to south of the river, well, guess what? Suddenly you're not patrolling the north side of Kansas City as much as you previously were. So now you're in a position where you're more likely to see that crime happen in that part of Kansas City. But that is where the biggest and most concerning trends are, north of the river in Kansas City, Missouri, where 2 years ago in 2013, you had 1 homicide. Last year at this point, you had 4. Now you have 15 for a 275% spike from 1 year ago at this time. So the mayor's numbers are right, even though the overall number is up, and the overall number is up because of what's happening up in the Northland. So the mayor wasn't doing gotcha. His numbers were not wrong. He was just picking the numbers that were exclusive to the Jackson County portion of Kansas City because he wanted to highlight the work that was being done by his own handpicked prosecutor, Melissa Johnson. That's what the mayor of Kansas City was doing. But the underlying story here is the problem that exists when it comes to the Northland. And I know I've heard from a lot of you, it's got to start getting more attention, but it is becoming a real serious problem. 913-408-7957. Pete, this is on the text line. The KC crime is simply moving based on police resources. Exactly. I mean, you're right. That's my whole point here. The resources being shifted south of the river, understandable, but it's leaving other people in other parts of Kansas City vulnerable. Trust me, you ask people up north. You want to call 911? You may see a police officer in 30 minutes if you're lucky. You've got more rural parts of the city up north, obviously, and they just don't have the resources there that they need. And it's a problem that I think Northlanders need to start speaking up about in a big way. Coming up, we have those Country Stampede 3-day passes we will tell you about here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We'll give those away in 15 minutes. Another celebrity is upset with the big guy.
Nobody cares.
I think people might. We'll tell you who next. I said to the fellas, give me some Rod Stewart you like, and now we know what Garner likes from the old Rod Stewart. There you go. Nice job.
Actually, not my favorite Rod Stewart song. Probably his most well-known.
So did you pick this one, John, or did you just think
No, I did not. We just go with the top-loaded one.
Okay, fair enough. He just went with the nice beat. There you go. Daily Mail writing here that legendary rocker Rod Stewart reveals why he won't go to Trump's Mar-a-Lago Christmas parties anymore. Is it because he wasn't invited? Well, not according to the Daily Mail. They say that basically he has taken a firm stance against hanging out with his old pal, Donald Trump. That's right. He said, I used to go to his Christmas party and the balls that he held, but my wife said no. Oh, so Rod's, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, all right, Rod. So you're whipped, all right? Rod Stewart is admitting to the world that he can't go hang out with his friend because his wife won't let him. Come on, dude. This is not the headline that you think it is. The Daily Mail was very nice to Rod Stewart in this piece, saying legendary rocker Rod Stewart reveals why he won't go to Trump's Mar-a-Lago Christmas parties anymore. What they should write here is Rod Stewart reveals he's a cuck, because apparently that's what he is.
From his 20th blonde wife that's 40 years younger. I don't know. She may be 50 years younger at this point. I was going to say it's more likely he didn't go because his walker didn't fit to the door. But, yeah. And I used to be a fan. Used to.
He did turn 80 this year. And, yeah.
He's one of those guys that's shrinking.
Yeah.
He used to be taller.
He is on his third wife, but that doesn't include all the other partners
I was going to say.
that are listed here on social media or on Wikipedia.
His wife this century?
Yeah. His wife is 54, and he turned 80. So, that's definitely quite a spread there for Rod Stewart.
Oh, well, her ARP card's coming, I guess, soon. So that's a little more like it, Rod.
Yes. So he goes on to say, let me clear up the situation. I've known Trump for a long time. I've done concerts for him in his casinos. I live probably 3/4 of a mile down the road from him on the beach in Florida. He's always been extremely nice to me. He's let my friends use his golf course for nothing, and I've had no problems with it at all. But now my wife says I can't go hang out with my friend who was always nice to me, so now I have to listen to her. Because if not, she won't change my diaper, says Rod Stewart. Right. I mean, geez, dude, you're not looking great. You just say no comment. Like, don't give the Daily Mail or whoever the headlines and the clickbait that they want when it doesn't make you look good, bro. It doesn't. He says here, is he a great president? Nah. Well, good thing Rod can't vote. He's not a citizen. Mm-hmm. I think his moral compass is way off, but on the other hand...
Oh, that's rich.
Yeah, that is rich, right? I think the country's doing extremely well, although I believe part of that was down to President Obama. The country was starting to do great anyway. He's just carrying it on? No.
See what I'm saying there about the drugs?
He's just so out of touch. The reason Trump is back in the White House is because people did not believe the country was doing well. If people believed the country was doing well under the last guy, they would have put his hand-picked successor, Kamala Harris, into the White House.
What are we talking about?
Come on, man. Rod Stewart. Woo, you're right, John. Those drugs get to you, man. Don't do drugs, kids.
He's been irrelevant since 1990, so... there's no point kicking him up again.
He's just jealous.
And that just shows you how far down the list they have to go to get to their stories they want when they're shopping for their opinion.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point. Trump's got much bigger fish to fry anyway right now. Okay, he's got this whole deal with Iran and Israel that is happening in real time. And if you missed it last hour, the supreme leader of Iran posted this on X. And he posted it in English. The U.S. entering in this matter, war, is 100% to its own detriment. The damage it will suffer will be far greater than any harm that Iran may encounter. Well, I would just say this. Daring Donald Trump to do something with threats have definitely never backfired before. Good call, dude. Good call. That is not the approach that I think you want to take if you are the supreme leader. Who Trump said yesterday on social media, we know where he is, but we haven't killed him yet. This is a high-stakes game of poker that the supreme leader is playing. He's basically asking Trump to call his bluff. That's what he's doing. And, one thing that has always been a tenet of Ronald Reagan's peace through strength is that we can't be bullied as the United States by two-bit dictator hucksters like the supreme leader of Iran. We won't stand for it. That doesn't mean that we do Iraq 2.0. Doesn't mean we send thousands of American troops onto, the Iranian desert for some type of hand-to-hand combat. No. That's not what anybody is lobbying for. But people forgot over the last 4 years who's in charge in this planet. They just forgot because the last guy was not in charge at all. I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
Didn't know where he was half the time. He was taking multiple naps a day. He was not the president of the United States. He was in name. President in name only. What do we call that? A PINO, I guess? Right? Can we use that acronym like we do for Rhino and everything else? But Joe Biden was the president in name only. He was not in charge of anything. And you had basically the worst actors on the world stage view Joe Biden as the substitute teacher. That's what he was. Right? The sub's here. All right, we're all going to goof off now until the real teacher comes back tomorrow or gets back from, being sick or helping out the kids or vacation or whatever it might be. We don't put up with this in the United States. We don't get heckled from the cheap seats by the supreme leader of Iran. No. We don't do that. We don't stand for that. See, to me, part of making America great again, and to me, part of America First, is reminding the world that we are the greatest superpower in the history of mankind. And that we want to remind people we are the greatest superpower in the history of mankind. That's, to me, what making America great again is. That's what America first is. That doesn't mean you go in a war. It doesn't mean you're duplicating Iraq. I don't want that. And I don't believe, maybe Lindsey Graham wants that. Maybe John Bolton wants that. But normal people don't want that. They also aren't interested in acquiescing to an online threat by a guy who literally could be killed today if we wanted to kill him. Victor's in Parkville. Go ahead, Victor. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. The hostages were taken when I was in boot camp. I proceeded to my ship and spent 8.5 months in the Indian Ocean, 4 months at sea because of Iran. Here's the thing. When radical jihadist Muslims tell you they want to kill you, believe them. And certainly do not give them a nuclear weapon to do it with. If you guys thought 9/11 was bad, this is exactly the situation. They're at war with us. We are not at war with them. Now imagine 9/11 with nuclear weapons. They will sneak them in, they will blow them up, and they are out to kill us. That's it. We need to get them out. We need to get this murderous theocracy out of Iran. The people in Iran do not want to be led by this government any longer. So we need to do whatever we can to instigate that change and to help foster that. And maybe they will come back around to it. Maybe they'll do a democracy. I have no idea. But we've got to get these nut jobs out of power.
Yeah, well said there, Victor. Well said, my man. I don't understand the faction of Donald Trump supporters who are like, can't do it. I mean, yes, Victor's right to note there that 9/11 is child's play compared to what these murderous thugs would do if they had their way with nuclear weapons. And this, I've heard this argument too. They're like, oh, well, they've got sleeper cells here in the U.S., and if we attack them, who knows what they'll do here. Listen, they will do here whatever they can get away with doing here, no matter what happens on that side of the world. Coming up on KCMO at 8:05, Lori Sharp is going to be here. She's on the Prairie Village City Council. This got a lot of local news attention over the last couple of days. The drama involving the $30 million new city hall that they are rolling out against the wishes of thousands of residents. She will be here to explain that. And then next, we will get to an announcement, an exclusive announcement from somebody running for governor on the Kansas side of our state line. That person will share that announcement next here on KCMO Talk Radio. But first up, we've got your chance at 3-day passes to Country Stampede. Next weekend, Azura Amphitheater. Luke Bryan, Miranda Lambert, you will see them all. Cole Swindell, all going to be here in Kansas City for Country Stampede. We've got 3-day passes for you right now. 7th caller, 913-408-7957.